Hello everyone. My name is Yesenia Ramdass. I grew up in New York City, the great city of lights, in a neighborhood uptown called Washington Heights, where my family migrated from the Dominican Republic, and I was born first generation American. I remember walking up Broadway with my mother on hot summer days, and remember hearing the melody of the Mr. Softee ice cream truck, and it was music to my ears. The delicious aroma that came from the pizza shop that swept me off my feet. And the giant golden arches at McDonald's that I would beg my mom for every time we walked by. I was fascinated with fast food, soft drinks, and potato chips. For my 5th grade graduation, my father asked me, Yesenia, if you could pick anywhere in the world to eat, where would it be? And when he said world, he was really referring to uptown. And if you were thinking McDonald's, well, you were right. That's exactly where I picked. See, we humans are creatures of habits. And the same foods I wanted then, I also kept eating into my teen years. So what would make a young kid like me pick McDonald's over anything for a celebration with her family? Why did I desire these foods so much? Why couldn't I change my eating habits? Well, let me tell you about 17-year-old me going through my first life-changing self-empowerment journey. I was a senior in high school that barely got by. I had done summer school 7 years in a row. I was always late. I rarely did my homework. And I tried to blend in with the classroom wall so that I wouldn't be seen by my teachers. I remember being in Miss Beckeridge's English class and always failing because I never read the assigned novel. She asked me to stay behind once class was dismissed. And she said, if you don't change, you're going to fail this class. I felt stupid most days and always sought the easy way out. But on this day, I felt bad. Bad because I was called out and told that I could potentially not graduate. I left school upset, and there I was, feeling stupid. That at 17 years old, I had never read a novel from beginning to end. On my way home, getting ready to enter the train station, I saw a Barnes & Noble bookstore. In the 3.5 years of high school, I had never gone inside, but I no longer wanted to be looked at the way my English teacher looked at me. I no longer wanted to be the stupid girl. I walked inside, and instantly, I was overwhelmed with the abundance of options to select from. I mean, where do I start? What are my interests? What would I actually read from beginning to end? And right there, before my eyes, in the center of the room, looked to what appeared to be a new book. The title screamed from across the room, and there it was, slapped on the cover. It said, Skinny Bitch. The book appeared to be less than 250 pages or so. So I said to myself, I could do this. I could read this. And plus, it wasn't boring history from English class. So I hopped in the train and immediately opened the book. I was instantly engaged. Before I knew it, 2 days later, I read my very first big book from beginning to end. Not only was I proud of myself, I had changed. Changed in a way I could have never foreseen. The book enlightened me to eat healthier, and it opened my eyes to the exposed horrors of the food industry. Without any additional information or research, I instantly stopped eating chicken, turkey, pork, beef, and basically any dead flesh that came from an animal. I just couldn't unlearn what I had learned. And this newly found knowledge that flipped the switch in me, it made me go pescatarian overnight. Here I am, 13 years later. From the day I felt stupid, picked up a book, and made a choice that changed my life. I have learned to embrace failure. I was actually very comfortable in it. But it took one comment, one trip to the library, and one book for me to make a change. See, the thing about having a choice is that ultimately we have the right and the power to make it happen. But having too many choices is harder than a defined few. Psychologist Barry Schwartz argues that the more choices we have, the less likely we will actually take action. He states that complexity leads to indecision, and that indecision leads to stagnation. But change isn't just compromised off of choices. For me, there was only one option. And that option was letting go of all that I knew and being open to the unknown. I had felt like Morpheus from The Matrix came to me and gave the two options he gave Neo in the movie. The red pill that would unveil the unpleasant truth, or the blue pill that would allow me to remain in blissful ignorance. Now, if it's not clear, I took the red pill. I had gone down the rabbit hole, and suddenly, this new lifestyle that limited my food options forced me to make conscious decisions. I went from living to eat and being obsessed with foods to eating to survive in the quest of a healthier lifestyle. Having limited food options was definitely a challenge at first. But I guess it's true what they say. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. I excitedly wanted to share my learnings with my family. I thought it would just click like it did with me. But it didn't. Being the second youngest out of 7 and raised in a Hispanic household came with challenges of its own. But challenging the normal came with even greater difficulties. I mean, just imagine going to Thanksgiving dinner with over 30 people, where the food options were chicken lasagna, roasted pork, turkey, and even some of the rice options had meat. I was often left with a plain rice and a side of salad, while the rest of my family ate full course meals. I mean, some of my relatives would even gang up on me and say, "Is that all you're having?" From the outside in, it seemed like my meals were always incomplete. It seemed like I didn't have much options. But the reality was that I had plenty of food choices. Maybe not in that environment per se, but definitely when I had control of what was going on the table. I had set out to open up my loved ones' eyes, to show them that we didn't have to sacrifice taste, our culture, and most importantly, our health. Options I had plenty of, like making ground beef out of walnuts and quinoa, or buffalo wings with cauliflower florets, and even shredded chicken tacos with jackfruit. I was having a ball exploring all of my options without meat. And although I was struck with a lack of diversity, it only ignited my curiosity to want to help others see the change that can come from having a variety of options. My family resisted change, but it wasn't because of a lack of options. They resisted change because they focused on what they needed to give up versus what they had to gain. You don't make an option, you have an option. And yes, it's true, complexity might lead to indecision, but the real power is having all of your options laid out, but choosing the right one. In my youth, I experienced a lot of change, many of which I didn't really decide for. But as a young adult, having to make decisions was inevitable. Do you know that the average adult makes about 35,000 decisions a day? Now, I know you're probably thinking, 35,000? But that is reality. We may not recognize the amount of decisions we make, and that's because we mostly do it while on autopilot. We live in this constant motion, and we do everyday things so effortlessly. Let me tell you about a change that wasn't so effortlessly. It started before I was married. I was expecting our soon-to-be-born son, and my now husband and I pondered the idea of raising our son as a vegetarian. This was not a simple decision to make, simply because my significant other wasn't a vegetarian. He wasn't a pescatarian, and he wasn't a vegan. He grew up similarly to how I grew up, and to what our society considered normal nutritional meals. He ate meat, fish, dairy, and like most, he desired a sweet, savory treat after each meal. I don't think my husband ever questioned my idea of raising our son vegetarian. I think he was more afraid of our son not getting the adequate protein or getting the proper nourishment for his developing body. So when questions were raised, I let the experts do the talking. I learned the hard way that sometimes a loved one can say something over 100 times, but when someone else says it, suddenly it clicks. Weeks, months, and years of reading documentaries and dragging him to conferences with me, he finally had his light bulb moment. He made the decision to change his diet and be a vegetarian himself. And on the 1-year anniversary of him being a vegetarian, he decided to go fully plant-based. His commitment was based on seeing personal health improvements. He was able to lower his A1C number to where he was no longer a pre-diabetic at age 27. He was more energized. His fatigue after meals completely disappeared. All of this while retraining his taste buds and acquiring a taste for clean and wholesome foods. So let's go back to that decision that him and I were trying to make for our son. Ultimately, this all added up to us raising our son, Zachariah, vegetarian. And not long after, as a family, we all transitioned to a plant-based diet together. Now, that was not a simple task. And there are so many decisions to make as a first-time mom, and so many opinions and recommendations flooding in on how to properly care for your newborn. The subject of nutrition quickly became a sensitive one, as I made decisions to use nut milks versus cow milk. And as he grew older, his source of protein were leafy greens and legumes. Decisions continued as our family grew, and the addition of his younger brother Abel followed. It was then, of course, much easier to raise him on a plant-based diet, as the whole household was now synchronized as one. I can share with you today that my 7-year-old and my 2-year-old have never had a piece of chicken nugget, a piece of chicken, and as a matter of fact, any animal meat in their life. But as for me, the first 17 years of my life, I ate chicken, steak, bacon. This identity that I have broken by removing animal products from my diet not only came with a healthier me, but it also helped me avoid being a part of another failing medical statistic. The identity that I had acquired separate from my family's might have been alien to them, but for me, it was finding myself and learning how to adapt to change. What I expected is not at all what I experienced. And with full transparency, it was much better than what I could have ever imagined. What I thought was just a book, it changed my life forever. It's phenomenal to see change over the course of time. An article published in the New York Times in August of 2007 stated that it was difficult to take vegan cuisine seriously. Well, you fast forward to today, 2020, and plant-based options are everywhere. From grocery stores to fully dedicated restaurants, and there's mainstream marketing everywhere for fast food restaurants. There's even continued clinical research that has proven ways to reverse medical conditions through dieting. Even with readily available information on pretty much any subject you can think of, the process of change happens at a different pace for everybody. For me, it could have been a self-discovery journey. For my husband, influence from his significant other. Or for my kids, inheriting a healthier lifestyle because of my choices. Change involves choices in which we self-determine, options in which we have plenty of, and the decisions we need to make up our minds. So while my journey could be totally different from yours, I assure you, they have one thing in common. We must accept change by making a decision. Not based on our comfort or the fear of breaking generational traditions, but based on self-improvement and personal growth. These three components of change lie within your power to achieve whichever outcome you desire. In any given moment, we have two options in life. You can either step into your growth, or you can step back into safety. I choose to never go back to being comfortable in failure. How I choose to affect change is by speaking up, by being the first, even when fear has a way of keeping us from our purpose. I am a proud first-generation American-born Dominican who walked to Broadway with my mom as a kid, falling in love with the foods that were designed to make me a statistic. A teenager who felt stupid and picked up a book, and a mother who faced adversity. I think about all of these transcending moments that have led me to where I stand today. It's easy to envision yourself at the finish line, but it's often hard to follow through the process. People know what they do. Only some know how they do it, but very, very few know their why. On your journey, remember to acknowledge that it will not be easy. Believe in yourself and always step outside of your comfort zone. I once made a choice to finish a book. I decided to graduate high school, and I created options for me and for my family. Hiding in fear does the same as hiding in silence. It does nothing. Be loud about the things that are important to you. Don't fear change. Thank you.